সো ওকে, আজকে আমি আপনাদের জন্য Vlan Vtp Dhcp দেন Ospf এবং বেসিক নেটিংটা ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করে দেখাবো। ক্লাসে যদিও দেখাই, বাট অনেকে কোপ আপ করতে পারেন না, সো তাদের জন্য। সো হোপফুলি ইট উইল বি বেনিফিশিয়াল টু ইউ। সো লেট আস বিগিন. So first of all, let me actually draw the topology here. So as usual, we are going to take 2811 routers, and so I am taking few switches and few PCs. So I would like to keep the topology as simple as possible so that you can keep track of what I am doing here. Okay, so this is all the components that I will be needing for today's demonstration. Okay, so let me put on some notes so that it is more clear for you guys. So for this side I am going to use the IP as 172.16.0.0, the one we have been using in our labs for a long time. Okay, so 16. Okay, and for this side I am going to use 10.0.0.0/8, and for router to router connection I am going to use 192.168.10.0. so this is the IPs that we will be using in today's demonstration. Now let me put on some few other notes regarding the VLAN numbers, the server switches, or which will be the client switches, the VLAN names, and other related things. So I am saying that the PC0 will fall under Vlan 10, namely let's say for faculties. The host requirement is 500. Okay, then PC1 is representing Vlan 20, namely student. The host requirement, let's say it's 300. Okay, so আজকের ক্লাসের জন্য আমি VLANটা এমন ভাবে ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করব যেটা ফিজিক্যাল লোকেশন যেটাই হোক আমার সেম VLAN এবং সেম সাবনেটের আন্ডারে থাকবে। তার মানে সুইচ 3 যেটা দেখতে পাচ্ছেন, সুইচ 3তেও আমি Vlan 10 faculty এবং Vlan 20 student implement করব। So okay, so PC2 here will be representing Vlan 10, again namely faculty. Let's take the host number or host requirement as 200. For PC3 let's give it the number again 20, namely student, and the host requirement let's say is also 200. Okay, for PC4 let's say it's a different site, we are going to use different VLANs, different names and other things, different IPs. Okay, so let's say it is Vlan 30, namely IT. The host requirement is here 700, and let's say PC5 is representing Vlan 40, namely marketing department, so I am writing only MKT to represent the marketing department, and the host requirement let's say it's 500. Okay, so these are basically the host requirement. Now let me rearrange this topology to, actually I will be needing some spaces to put on the nodes in a efficient order so that you guys can easily understand it. So for now this is the best I am able to do. Okay, let's continue again. So in the left side, the switch 0, so this should be the server switch. Okay, and the switch 2 and switch 3 is going to be the client switches. Okay. So for today's demonstration, as we are actually implementing the server switch, the client switch, and we are also considering about regardless of the physical location, same VLAN name, and also the same IP. So for today's demonstration, you need to actually assign a common subnet for faculty VLAN number 10 requirement 500 and VLAN 10 faculty requirement 200. So how you are going to do it? You need to actually combine the required host number. So let's say VLAN 10, namely faculty, so the host requirement are 500 plus 200, so it is actually 700. So if we actually take the host requirement and apply Vlsm to this IP, we are going to get the network IP as 172.16.0.0, and we are going to have the subnet mask as 255.255.252.0. I think you should already know it, as we are using the same IP again and again in our lab classes. So I think you actually get how it is done. So for default gateway, I am going to use the first available host IP. So that would be 172.16.0.1. Okay. So this is the actually subnet for the VLAN 10, namely faculty. Okay. So now I am going to do the same for the VLAN 20. VLAN 20, namely student. So here also you need to adjust, or you need to add the host requirement from these two part. So one is 300, another one is 200, so this results into a total number of host requirement of 500. So if you apply again this host requirement to do your Vlsm, you will have the network IP as 172.16.4.0. you will have the subnet mask as 255.255.254.0, and again I am going to use the first available host as the default gateway. So it should be 172.16.4.1. okay. So and in the right side, as there is no server or client issue, we are going to take the host requirement of these two VLANs and going to simply apply the Vlsm here. So if you apply for IT, you will get 10.0.0.0. you will have the subnet mask as 255.255.252.0, and again I am going to use the first host as the default gateway, 10.0.0.1. okay. So for it you will get 10.0.4.0. you are going to have 255.255.254.0, and the default gateway is the first available host, which is 10.0.4.1. okay. So now let us continue with the port configuration of the switches. So for it, first we need to actually outline the port range of each of these VLAN. So to make it simple, let's actually consider for VLAN 10 or for faculty, we are going to have the interface range from first Ethernet 0/2 to first Ethernet 0/15. And for student VLAN or VLAN 20, we are going to have the interface range from first Ethernet 0/16 to first Ethernet 0/24. So we are keeping actually the first Ethernet 0/1 as the trunk port. So the trunk port is responsible for passing data from all the VLANs. Here all the VLANs actually means to VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. So similar for this switch, here also we will be having the trunk port. Here also we will be having the trunk port, which will also be first Ethernet 0/1. And to make it a simple problem, again we are going to use the same range, that is interface first Ethernet 0/2 from first Ethernet 0/15 for IT, and first Ethernet 0/16 to first Ethernet 0/24 for the marketing department. Okay, so the server switch or the switch 0 will be having 3 trunk ports. Okay, because the VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 will be passing through the switch 0 within this using this 3 trunk port. Okay, so as we have identified the important parts of our today's topology, let us actually do the connections. So from first Ethernet 0, as the PC0 is representing the faculty VLAN, I should connect it under a port from first Ethernet 0 to 15. So let us use the first available port, first Ethernet 0/2. And for PC1, which is representing VLAN 20, we need to use any port from first Ethernet 0/16 to first Ethernet 0/24. So here also let us use the first available port for this VLAN. So let us do the same for PC2. And for PC4, which is representing the IT VLAN. So I am going to use the first Ethernet 0/1 to connect with switches first Ethernet 0/2. Here I am going to use first Ethernet 0/1 to connect with switches 0/3. And I am going to connect the server switch using first Ethernet 0/1 with our routers first Ethernet 0/0. So here also for the switch 1, I am going to connect it with first Ethernet 0/1 with routers first Ethernet 0/0, so that we can get a unified port number for all of our configuration. But you can actually change it as per your wish, but you need to actually remember it while configuring those ports. Okay, so for router to router, we are going to use the serial DCE as demonstrated in class. First we need to add the module HWIC2T. For this router also we are going to do the same. Okay, now our router can actually use the serial DCE port. So I am using the interface serial 0/3/0. So I think most of the information that is required to do the configuration is available on the screen. Now I am going to simply start the configuration portion. So as demonstrated in previous class, if you are using switches without implementing server switch or client switch logic, you need to actually create all the VLANs separately in each of the switches. But as today we are going to use server switch and client switches, we will be creating the VLANs only in the server switch. And when we will change the mode of switch 2 and switch 3 from server, which is the default mode, to the client mode, VLAN 10, VLAN 20 will automatically be updated in these switches. We don't have to do them again and again. So this is the benefit that we are going to have today. And we are also not going to do the IP configuration we used to do, because today we will be using DHCP for automatic IP assignment. Okay, so let us first configure the server switch. So I am naming the VTP domain as Aiub. Then I will just simply create the VLANs. So VLAN 10, faculty, VLAN 20, name student. So simply done. The VLAN creation is done. Now, as this server switch has 3 fast Ethernet port, and this is where the data from VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 will be passing through. So all these 3 ports should be made as the trunk port. So let us start one by one. So interface fast Ethernet 0/1, switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk, allowed VLAN all. We are allowing all of the VLANs. All means here we only have VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. Then interface fast Ethernet 0/2, switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk, allowed VLAN all. Again interface fast Ethernet 0/2, switch port mode trunk, okay, we have already configured switch port 0/2, so my bad. Now I need to actually configure the fast Ethernet 0/3 port. So switch port mode trunk, switch port allowed VLAN all. Okay, my bad, incomplete command. Switch port trunk allowed VLAN all. So okay, my server switch is configured with the VTP domain name, the VLAN numbers and names, and all the fast Ethernet ports have been made as trunk ports. So now let's see our client switches and try to configure them. As you know, the default mode of the switch is server mode. So first we need to make it as client mode, but before that let us run the command show VLAN. Okay, so here you can see the VLAN names and numbers, and here also let's see, enable show VLAN. So here you can see actually about the VLANs here. So for some reason switch 2 is already showing VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, but switch 3 is not showing. So this is actually the correct one. As we have not updated this switch as client, it should not receive the things done on the server switch yet. So okay, anyway, let us continue first. So I am going to the configure terminal mode. Then I will first make this switch as our client switch. Okay, so for making it as a client switch, you need to write the command vtp mode client. So the device is being setted to VTP client mode. Okay, so it is under VTP. Okay, VTP mode client. Okay, no issues. Now we will be actually assigning the interfaces to specific VLANs. So interface range first Ethernet 0/2 to first Ethernet 0/15, switch port mode access. So this should be the access links, as it is connected with the PCs or the hosts. So switch port access VLAN, this is for VLAN 10. So we should implement another range, which is interface range first Ethernet 0/16 to first Ethernet 0/24. It is also the access links. So switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20. And for this switch, the first Ethernet 0/1 is the trunk port. So let us configure it. 0/1 switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk, allowed VLAN all. Okay, very good. So now let us see the VLAN configuration now. Show VLAN. Okay, so now you can see it is updated with the faculty and student VLANs, and the ports are also assigned under it. Okay, so we are done here. Now we are going to move into the next switch under this server switch. So let me go to the configure terminal. Then I need to first change the mode, VTP mode client. Then simply assign the ranges to each of our VLANs. So interface range first Ethernet 0/2 to first Ethernet 0/15, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10, exit, and again interface first Ethernet 0/16 to first Ethernet 0/24. Okay, I missed the range command. Interface range first Ethernet 0/16 to first Ethernet 0/24, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20. Again, this switch also has the first Ethernet 0/1 as the trunk port, so I need to configure it. First Ethernet 0/1, switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk, allowed VLAN all. Okay, so all our switches from this left side have been configured. So now I am going to configure this switch, then I will move on to the routers. So enable configure terminal. So I am going to create the VLANs here. So the VLANs are VLAN 30, right? Yes, VLAN 30. The name should be IT. Name IT. Then VLAN 40. The name is marketing, represented by 3 words MKT. Exit. I am going to assign the interface ranges here. So same range, interface range first Ethernet 0/2 to first Ethernet 0/15, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 30. Then for the rest of the interfaces, I need to write interface range first Ethernet 0/16 to first Ethernet 0/24, port mode access. So these ports are for Vlan 40 or marketing department. So switch port access Vlan 40 exit. So here also the first 0/1 is going to be used as the trunk port. So interface first 0/1 switch port mode trunk switch port trunk allowed Vlan all exit. So I'm done with all of my switches from both left side and right side. Now I am going to configure the router 0 here. So while configuring the router, I will complete all of the things that is required for this router. Like I will first try to configure this portion first 0/0. I need to divide this interface into two sub interfaces. Okay, then I am going to assign the default gateways of these two networks in the two sub interfaces. Then I am going to configure the serial 0/3/0 port. I am going to apply the Ospf routing protocol. I am going to apply the DHCP. I am going to apply the NAT. So everything that is required for router 0, I will complete them first, then I will move on to the router 1. So for this part, let us begin by moving on to the configure terminal. So first I am going to make the first Ethernet 0/0 interface as green using the no shutdown command. Okay, so now I am going to move to the sub interface of this first Ethernet 0/0. So simply I am going to write first Ethernet 0/0 .10. .10 is for Vlan 10. So before assigning any IP, I need to encapsulate it using the encapsulate command. Encapsulation .1q 10. Now I can assign the default gateway of Vlan 10, namely faculty subnetwork. The default gateway is 172.16.0.1. So the command is IP address 172.16.0.1. The subnet mask is 255.255.252.0. So it is done. Now I need to configure another sub interface, that is interface first Ethernet 0/0.20. So it is for Vlan 20. So I need to apply encapsulation here as well, that is encapsulation .1q20. The IP address for this Vlan 20 and student portion is 172.16.4.1, as it is the default gateway of this subnetwork. So IP address 172.16.4.1, subnet mask is 255.255.254.0. Okay, so both of my sub interfaces have been configured. Okay, now I am going to configure the serial port 0/3/0. So simply I am going to write interface serial port 0/3/0. So the IPs that should be used for this is given 192.168.10.0. Okay, so the slash here is 30, meaning the subnet mask of this portion is 255.255.255.252. Okay, so simply I am going to assign one IP from this subnet to router 0 and one IP in router 1's serial port. Okay, so let me continue with that. So one IP is IP address 192.168.10.1. Subnet mask is 255.255.255.252. No shutdown. Okay, so IP in the serial port has already been assigned. Now let's say configure the DHCP pool. So IP DHCP pool. So I need to configure two DHCP pools, one for Vlan 10 and one for Vlan 20, as we have two subnetworks for them. So IP DHCP pool D10 for Vlan 10. The network here is 172.16.0.0. The subnet mask is 255.255.252.0. Now I need to mention the default IP of the subnetwork also, so that this default IP is not assigned to any of the PCs. So 172.16.0.1. So this is my one DHCP pool. I need to create another one, namely IP DHCP pool D20. The network here is 172.16.4.0. The subnet mask is 255.255.254.0. The default is 172.16.4.1. okay, so my DHCP is also configured. Now let us apply the Ospf routing protocol here. So the command is router Ospf. Let me take the number as 5. So I need to mention the networks that is connected with this router. So the networks are network 172.16.0.0. Now we need a wildcard mask, okay, not the subnet mask. So I have already demonstrated in class how can you actually get the wildcard mask simply from the given subnet mask. So the wildcard mask for this network will be 0.0.3.255, and I need area also. Here we will be using area 0 as the main area. So again, another network is network 172.16.4.0. Here the wildcard mask is 0.0.1.255. Here also the area should be 0. And the network is the router to router network. The IP is network 192.168.10.0. okay, the wildcard mask is 0.0.0.3. area is simply 0. So our routing protocol Ospf is also implemented. Now let me apply the basic NAT here. Okay, so we are actually doing all the things all together for router 0. We will do, or we will follow the same steps for router 1 after the router 0 configuration is done. So for applying basic NAT, you need to actually write these commands in the configure terminal. Okay, so the command is access list the number of your VLAN, so one is 10. Then you need to write permit, so the network IP for VLAN 10, that is 172.16.0.0, and the subnet mask 0.0.3.255. okay, so similarly you need to write for another VLAN, that is VLAN 20, access list 20 permit. So you need to write the IP for VLAN 20 172.16.4.0 and the wildcard mask of this network, so 0.0.1.255. okay, so following this command you need to write IP NAT inside source list 10, your VLAN 10. okay, so interface serial port 0/3/0 overload. So you need to do the same for VLAN 20. So IP NAT inside source list 20 interface serial port 0/3/0 overload. So after writing the access list, the permit command, the IP NAT inside source command, you need to simply write interface serial port 0/3/0. So as this is the outer interface, you need to write IP NAT outside. okay, and as you have the fast Ethernet port 0/0 as the inside interface, you need to write interface fast Ethernet 0/0 IP NAT inside. So this is our basic netting. okay, so now we are going to configure the router 1 following the steps that we have followed for router 0. Okay, so no, then enable configure terminal. Then first I need to actually configure the first Ethernet 0/0 its sub interfaces. So interface first Ethernet 0/0, no shutdown. Now I am going to go for the sub interfaces for each of the VLAN 30 and VLAN 40. So interface first Ethernet 0/0 dot 30. You need to apply the encapsulation first. So encapsulation dot 1Q for 30. Now you can write the default gateway of this subnetwork. So IP address 10.0.0.1. Subnet mask is 255.255.252.0. Okay, so now configure the another sub interface 0/0.40 for the marketing department. Okay, the default gateway here is 10.0.4.1. but first you need to apply the encapsulation dot 1Q for 40. the IP address is 10.0.4.1. the subnet mask is 255.255.254.0. okay, so the first Ethernet 0/0 and its sub interfaces have been configured. Now let's move on to the serial port. So interface serial 0/3/0. So remember we have assigned the first IP 10.1 in router 0 serial interface, so we will be assigning the following IP, that is 10.2, to router 1's serial port. So IP address 192.168.10.2. subnet mask is 255.255.255.252. so the no shutdown command. Now my serial link will be green. Okay, so the link is up simply. So now let us configure the DHCP pools for this side also. So I have two VLANs, so I need two pools. So IP DHCP pool D30. So network here is network 10.0.0.0. subnet mask is 255.255.252.0. the default IP is the first host. Okay, the default gateway is the first host, that is 10.0.0.1. so another DHCP pool is IP DHCP pool D40. the network here is network 10.0.4.0. subnet mask is 255.255.254.0. okay, the default gateway here is also the first host, that is 10.0.4.1. so exit. Okay, so now I need to apply the routing protocol OSPF followed by the basic NAT, then our configuration for today's demonstration will be done. So let us apply the OSPF. so router OSPF, let me use the number 10 for this side. so one is network 10.0.0.0. the wildcard mask is 0.0.3.255, and I will be using area 0 here also. and network 10.0.4.0. the wildcard mask is 0.0.1.255. the area should be also 0. then I have another network left, which is router to router connection. so the IP is network 192.168.10.0. the wildcard mask is 0.0.0.1. 0.3, area command is 0. Okay, so my Ospf is done, and you can see as the convergence in Ospf is very fast, the loading is also done. Now I need to apply the basic netting here. So again, similarly, I need to permit both of the access list with their IP and wildcard mask. Then I need to overload the serial port for both of my VLANs, Vlan 30 and Vlan 40. Then I am going to apply IP NAT outside for the serial port and IP NAT inside for first Ethernet 0/0. So let us do that. Access list 30 permit 10.0.0.0, as this IP is for VLAN 30. Okay, you can see from here the wildcard mask is 0.0.3.255. Similarly, access list 40, you need to permit the IP for VLAN 40, which is 10.0.4.0, 10.0.4.0, and the wildcard mask is 0.0.1.255. Okay, now interface, sorry, my bad, IP NAT inside source 30, interface serial port 0/3/0, overload. Okay, I have missed the list word, source list 30. So now which is correct. Now I need to do for VLAN 40 also, inside source list 40, interface serial port 0/3/0, overload. Now simply I have two commands left. So one is interface serial port 0/3/0. So need to apply IP NAT outside, then interface first Ethernet 0/0, IP NAT inside. So okay, so our configuration for today's demonstration is done. Now we can actually send the PDU, protocol data unit, from one end to other end, from one PC to other PC. So we are actually having the inter-VLAN communication with other things, namely Vlan Vtp, netting, Ospf, Dhcp, all of these things. Okay, so but before that, as we have not assigned any IP, so PDU will not go from one end to other end, okay, because it has no IPs. So remember, we have used Dhcp, so we don't need to actually assign static IP. Simply just click on Dhcp. If your configuration is correct, Dhcp request will be successful. So let me do that for all of my PCs here. So look one thing closely, PC0 and PC2, PC0 and PC2, and PC1 and PC3. So for PC0 and PC2, though their physical location is different, they are under same VLAN, they are under same sub network. So check their IP. Okay, so PC0 has been assigned IP from 172.16.0.0 subnetwork. Okay, so it has been assigned the IP as 0.2. You can check for PC2, it has been assigned 0.3. So though their physical location is different, they are under same subnetwork. And the same thing is for PC1 and PC3. So PC1 is assigned IP from the subnetwork 172.164.0. PC3 is also assigned, should be also assigned from 172.164.0. So you can see it has been assigned from 4.0. The IP is specifically 4.2 and this IP should be 4.3. okay, so for PC4 we are going to also apply the DHCP. So DHCP request successful. Again here DHCP, so it is also successful. So now we are done with all the configuration. Now let us check our connections. As you may know, the first one or two PDU actually shows failed. So in progress, it is failed. So let us try again. So this time it is successful. Let's try a bit further. Okay, in progress, failed. Now let me try again. So it is again successful. So from here to here, successful. From PC1 to PC4, so initially failed. Again PC1 to PC4, now it is successful. PC2 to PC5, in progress, failed. Now PC2 to PC5, successful. So I think now everything will be fine. Every time you send a PDU from one end to another end, it will now show the status as successful. Okay, so if you want to see the simulation steps for the PDUs, let me pass the PDU from PC1 to PC5. So let us begin the simulation steps. You can see the route of the PDU that has been sent from PC1 to PC5. So you can see the time in seconds and the path. Okay, from PC1 to switch 2 to switch 0 to router 0 to router 1, then ultimately to switch 1, then to the target, that is PC5. Okay, it will now it is actually checking end-to-end connection. It will again be passed to the sending PC, that is, I think it was PC1. Okay, so the status is successful. Okay, so that was actually the demonstration for Vlan Vtp Dhcp Ospf with basic netting. I think you can practice this with the class lectures and with this video demonstration and also the lab manual that is provided in your lab. So thank you guys. See you in next